What's happening, Total Fitness Bodybuilders? It is your muscle building coach, Lee Hayward, back again with another Ask Lee video Q&A. Now today's question comes from Kim Henry, and he's asking about bodybuilding competition. And he says he's wondering about a bodybuilding contest which includes weight classes. He says he's 177 centimeters, 5'9", weighs 185 pounds, has 14% body fat. Says his body type is ecto-Mesomorph, and his goal is to become a heavyweight competitor over 198 pounds, and eventually a super heavyweight competitor over 225 pounds. Says I don't want to become a flyweight or a bantamweight because it looks skinny and there are a lot of competitors there. I'm trying to build muscle and lose fat now. If my height is 5'9.5", how much weight should I have to gain in the off season? Woo! Alright, that's a loaded question. And anybody who's familiar with bodybuilding competition and has competed themselves knows that this is a loaded question. Alright, when it comes to bodybuilding contest weights, this is very deceiving, especially if you're not familiar with bodybuilding competition. Because you'll see the weights that someone weighs in at, and it will probably seem very light, very low in comparison to what you're used to. I mean, if you see someone who weighs in at 198 pounds, let's say, well, that would technically be a light heavyweight competitor. So you actually mentioned in your email, your goal is to eventually be a super heavyweight competitor, 225 pounds. First off, 225 pounds is pretty darn big in general, just for anybody. But when you look at a competitive bodybuilder who has dieted down and dehydrated themselves to get into a peak contest ripped condition at 225 pounds, that is a massive, massive individual in the off season. I mean, most heavyweight competitors and super heavyweight competitors are losing 50 plus pounds from their off-season weight to their contest weight. So in order to be a legitimate heavyweight competitor, you're probably looking at being 260 to 270 pounds in the off-season and then dieting down from that. We're talking about massive, massive men. We're not talking about small people here, right? And for a super heavyweight competitor, I mean, a legitimate super heavyweight competitor is probably going to peak out at close to 300 pounds in the off season and then diet down from there. We're talking a lot of frickin' muscle mass on a frame. And you're currently 185 pounds in the off season. 185 pounds with 14% body fat. So I'm not trying to discourage you from reaching these goals, but I'm just saying that those numbers and those goals that you have set for yourself are not something that you're going to achieve in the matter of weeks or the matter of months or maybe even in the matter of years. These are long-term goals to build that kind of muscle mass. I mean, you're literally looking at building upwards of 100 pounds of muscle mass on your frame and then dieting down from there. So I mean, that is long-term goals, and quite honestly, it may not even be possible to pack on that much muscle mass. Definitely it probably is not possible to do that naturally. I mean, you know, the fact of the matter is that a lot of these massive bodybuilders that you see, you know, top pro bodybuilders and all that, let's just say there's a little bit of pharmaceutical help going on in order for them to pack on that kind of muscle mass. So if you're a natural bodybuilder and you plan to stay natural, in all honesty, it's very unlikely that you will reach the level of heavyweight or super heavyweight competitor on stage weight. And again, I'm not trying to discourage you or burst your bubble or anything like that. I'm just kind of throwing in a bit of a reality check here. My advice, if you want to get involved with bodybuilding, and I absolutely encourage it because it is a fantastic sport in that it will teach you a lot about yourself and it will motivate you to get in shape, and it will teach you so much more about training, nutrition, and discipline and willpower. I mean, there's so many positive attributes that come from bodybuilding and the process of getting into contest shape. I mean, there's a lot of positive attributes that come from that if you go about it the right way. And my advice is to forget body weight entirely. You know, don't get hung up on what your body weight is or what your contest weight is or what weight class you fall into. Just worry about getting into your personal best shape ever. Worry about your conditioning, your physique. Don't worry about how many competitors are in your weight class or you know, figuring that, oh, I don't want to be in the smaller weight classes, I want to be in the bigger weight classes. You know, it doesn't always work that way. I mean, that's almost like someone looking at getting their first job saying, hey, I don't want to get a job for minimum wage. I'd like to get a job making $100,000 a year. Well, I mean, that's great to have that as a long-term goal, but you're not going to start off at that. You know, you're not going to have, you know, most people aren't anyway. You know, are going to start off their very first job, you know, making $100,000 a year or something like that. Most people are probably going to start off small and work their way up. That's generally how it goes. Bodybuilding's the same way. You know, very few people are going to start off as a heavyweight or a super heavyweight competitor. Most people are going to start off small and build their way up. Prime example of this, you know, a very famous example, one that I like to use, is former Mr. Olympia Dexter Jackson. If you followed his career, he started off as a bantamweight. I think his contest weight was somewhere like 135 pounds, give or take. Somewhere in that range is what he started off competing at as a teenager. And then over many, many years, built himself up through the weight classes. He actually ended up turning pro as a light heavyweight competitor, which is under 198 pounds. And then competing through the pro ranks and everything else, and now his stage weight is somewhere in the vicinity of 220 pounds. But I mean, he built his way up from a skinny bantamweight all the way up to a legitimate heavyweight competitor. And I mean, that took a lifetime of training, plus whatever else goes into, you know, a Mr. Olympia contest prep. Let's just say, we'll just leave it at that. But I mean, that is a rare exception, because he is one of the few men who has ever won the Mr. Olympia competition. I mean, you can count on your fingers and toes the number of people that won the Mr. Olympia competition. I mean, your odds are, you've got better odds of winning the lottery than you do winning the Mr. Olympia. So that just shows the elite level that he's at. But like I say, he's done that over a lifetime of training, and he started off at the bottom, started off at the bantamweight, and built himself up. My advice for you, let's start off at the bottom. Let's just worry about getting in your best shape, regardless of whatever weight class you weigh in at. Set a goal of just stepping on stage and doing your best, and from there, just worry about improving yourself each time you compete. I mean, your only real competition in bodybuilding is with yourself. You know, it's not with whoever else shows up on stage or any other competitors, because quite honestly, you have zero control over anybody else. The only person you have control over is yourself. So focus on getting in your best shape, focus on making personal improvements to your own physique, and that's all you can do. So worry about that, and then eventually, after several years of competing and, you know, going through off-season bulking and cutting cycles and all that kind of stuff, if you do build up to a legitimate heavyweight or even a super heavyweight competitor, then hey, great, fantastic. That's a huge accomplishment. But realize that that is a long-term goal. We're talking years down the road. This isn't something that's going to be happening in the matter of weeks or months or anything like that. To build that level of muscle mass is a long-term vision. So hopefully this helps to shed some insight into your contest prep plans or whatever. And like I said, I'm just trying to do my best to share the way it is when it comes to bodybuilding and weights and off-season and cutting and all that kind of stuff. So if you have any questions, comments, or feedback related to this video, feel free to post those in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to help you out. And in the meantime, stay tuned for my next video coming soon. Take care. Over and out.